shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah, good morning, everybody. That's right. Today is Tuesday, June 17th. Today is National Mascot Day today, you guys.
Oh, boy.
Everyone loves a good mascot.
Do they?
Yeah, speaking of mascots, it's also National Cherry Tart Day.
Okay. Listen, I feel like cherry desserts have a whole lot of days, and I need to go ahead and I need Doge to look into why Big Cherry is spending so much money on national days.
Big cherries. Well, what about it's also National Apple Strudel Day.
Big cherry.
It's also National Eat Your Vegetables Day.
That should be every day.
Yes.
And you couldn't have your vegetables without roots because today is also National Root Beer Day.
Okay.
See what I did there, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm not for it, but okay.
Anyways, whatever. Oh, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are going to kick it off in the beginning today with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice imperiled individuals get their lives back on track. And here, coming to you fresh out of bed today, is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Like John and Yoko.
Well, fresh back in bed, you know what I mean? I'm doing it. You know, I love my desk. I love my office. I love my green screen. But some days I just want to sit in bed because it's comfier. So, welcome. All right. So, a little news out of North Carolina because a new North Carolina Senate proposal aims to tighten restrictions on hemp-derived THC products across the state. Lawmakers in Raleigh are fast-tracking a bill that would bar synthetic hemp products and establish fresh regulations for Delta-9 THC items like gummies and beverages. The Senate Health Care Committee approved the measure on Tuesday morning, just days before the legislature plans to adjourn. Under the proposed law, retailers would need state licensing and would face limits on Delta-9 potency products, and products must undergo lab testing. Packaging must include clear labeling and avoid child-appealing branding or characters. Sales would be restricted to adults age 21 and over. Attorney General Jeff Jackson, a Democrat, supported the bill, calling oversight of these products long overdue and warning parents that the current unregulated Wild West market often targets kids. Senator Amy Galey, a Republican from Alamance County, emphasized that the legislation prioritizes public health, not industry interests, and aims to keep toxins and synthetics out of communities and minors' hands. Jason, you remember when public health was the industry's interest? But hey, God, that was a long time ago. This Senate version significantly expands on the House-passed measure, which only prohibited Delta-8 and Delta-9 products on school grounds. The Senate now wants statewide licensing, testing, and age restrictions. Regulatory enforcement would fall to alcohol law enforcement, with penalties ranging from hefty fines to suspension and revocation of retail licenses. The Department of Justice is already coordinating with the ALE, according to AG Jackson. Remember, hemp products are legal here in North Carolina so long as they contain 0.3% THC or less. But some manufacturers have found a way to boost THC content, creating products that can still cause psychoactive effects or resemble illegal marijuana. Parents and school officials have raised alarm, citing cases where children unintentionally consumed THC gummies and needed emergency care. I bet it was unintentional. Listen, I've been a kid and I got a kid. I bet it was unintentional. Wink, wink. This move comes amid broader state efforts. Governor Josh Stein recently launched a THC task force to propose regulations and explore potential legalization pathways. So, if this Senate bill becomes law, expect stricter rules in stores, clearer safety measures on the shelves. Lawmakers will meet again today, and we will keep you posted on the updates. I love this. Listen, think of the children, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we need to have age gates on things. You shouldn't be able to be 15 years old and walk into the gas station and buy hemp-derived THC products. That doesn't make sense. Kids, once again, let your brains fully develop before you start trying to fuck with them. But I'll throw it back to you guys. It sounds like North Carolina is taking a step in the right direction to ensure that these products are safe for human consumption and to kind of build like a real industry around this. So what do you guys think?
They should do it the old-fashioned way where they have to ask an adult to buy it for them while they stand outside the gas station.
Yeah, and pay $20 extra like we did for 12 packs of PBR.
That's exactly right.
In the day. Yeah, protecting kids, you can never really argue against it as long as they do it right and don't hurt the businesses as a result of it. I don't mind them being 21 plus shops or like alcohol stores or, making sure that they ID everyone who's under 35.
Or maybe dispensaries.
In Florida.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if cutting out sales to children hurts your business, then screw you and your business.
Right?
I don't really.
No, for sure.
I don't see that really happening anywhere, but.
Yeah, it's not going to. I mean, I think that it's a good thing. I think that they need to have, if they're going to have this industry there, they need to regulate it in some way. So at least there's some, 9 out of 10 people, I think, want to do the good thing and want to produce products that are going to be safe and healthy for people. And, it's unfortunately that little small percentage of people who just don't care about being a good operator. Mm-hmm. Make things more difficult for the rest. But I think, every time we see something like this, it legitimizes it as an industry.
I guess the question is, are there actually sales to children occurring, or is this more
I think that's total bullshit.
The parents' meds,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm not buying that there's sales to children. I mean, yes, I'm sure there's maybe 1 in a million, you know what I'm saying? Maybe 5 in a million, but overall, no, people are not selling to kids. It's total bullshit. This is kids getting into their parents' stash and then stashing away.
I think most of the time I agree with you. But you know what? There's always that 15-year-old with that full beard and that mustache.
And that fake ID. I had a fake ID.
I had a fake ID.
Speaking of which, they just had a whole big old arrest over in Florida for people that were producing fake IDs for people.
That was scarier.
Good thing you got yours first.
It was also DMV employees, so they were actually producing illegal real IDs for people, including CDLs, which is well,
pow pow bang bang bang, you guys. Wow.
All right. Well, what a way to start off the day, Jason.
What a way to start off the day. And on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where am I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, yeah. Next, the High at 9 head honcho, the highest Republican, allegedly.
It's no allegedly, it's just a fact of the reality.
Jason Beck.
Crowd goes wild.
Yep, crowd's going wild, Todd. Todd, you can't hear it on my end, Todd, because I'm hitting the clap button.
No, I cannot hear it.
Okay, all right. Well, I thought we had that fixed. Anyways, we're working on a few things over here, getting everything ironed out. So I guess we're having a little bit of technical difficulties today, whatnot. That's why you see the screens go black for a second. There may not be any transitions today, just so you guys are aware. But man, oh man, do I have some exciting news, Jenny Beth? You're gonna love this. Exactly. Because a new owner gives High Times a fresh spark. And the founder of a rolling paper company is bringing back the Stoner magazine's print edition and their website, you guys. That's right. Weed has gone mainstream. Cue the comeback for the Stoner magazine High Times, because in a multi-million-dollar passion project, the founder of a rolling paper company will receive the publication that was a voice of the counterculture for decades. High Times celebrates cannabis culture with news, essays, advocating and legalization, and celebrity interviews. And U.S. cannabis sales are on track to reach just under $33 billion this year, according to cannabis data from BDSA. And the substance is legal for adult use in more than 20 states. Josh Kesselman, who owns Raw Rolling Papers, paid $3.5 million for the High Times intellectual property rights. He is resurrecting the print magazine with special edition releases and relaunching the flagship Cannabis Cup pot competition, trying to bring back the brand's rebellious spirit in a joint effort with former High Times co-owner Matt Stang. Kesselman is candid about the magazine's prospects in an era of fractured media attention, and he expects the magazine to lose money initially, and he just hopes to pick up enough business with diehard marijuana enthusiasts to eventually break even, he said. He has already pumped an additional $1.85 million into jumpstarting the magazine, covering costs, including trademark fees and digitizing old content. In a quote says, "I know typically in business people have this whole plan," Kesselman said. "But the funny part, Matt and I always tell people, is we have no plan. The most important thing to us was to actually save High Times." Kesselman said the company's prior owner lost buy-in from readers by focusing too much on profit. Trans High Corp, or THC, the magazine's publisher since 1974, its founding, and sold its assets to a private equity firm, Oriva Capital, in 2017. The new parent company, High Times Holding, entered into receivership in April of 2024, and the website hasn't been updated in months. Its last print edition came out in September. In a quote, "The old High Times, the monetization one, had to be completely destroyed down to the ashes. That way of thinking had to go away," Kesselman said. In a year before High Times was sold to Oriva, its website drew about 5 million monthly visitors, Stang said, and the owners are relaunching High Times website and special edition print magazines, joining many publications expanding or reviving their print operations, including The Atlantic, The Onion, and The Tablet. Even as new outlets pop up to cover the growing cannabis industry, Kesselman said he thinks High Times can draw a strong audience. Stang, who co-owned the publication for 7 years until its 2017 private equity purchase, is trying to coax some former colleagues back. And Kesselman, 54, was introduced to weed culture in High Times as a teen when marijuana was illegal in the U.S., stashing a copy wrapped in brown paper away from his parents. In addition to the rebooted digital platform and occasional print editions, Kesselman and Stang also plan to roll out licensing deals to create High Times products, including rolling papers through Raw, and connect readers with cannabis social media influencers. And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, you guys. Well, I wish these guys all the best of luck on this. I'm really happy to see that High Times is back in the hands of people that actually care about cannabis and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see what they do with all this, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
So does that mean that High Times, the new publications, will be printed in China?
I don't get the.
Oh, you don't understand? Okay, so remember when Raw is supposedly made in Spain, but then they found out that it was not made using natural products.
I see what you're saying.
But it was actually being made in China and mass produced, and that they had this whole nonprofit foundation that people that were supposed to portion of products are going to that didn't exist.
Wow.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, remember when Matt Stang almost went to prison? Like, I'm really not mad at him because that was a lot of cup stuff. But like, I mean, shout out to Matt Stang. He was a cool guy. Yeah, I think that this is an interesting move. I hope that it works out. It's very interesting. And I think there's still a lawsuit going on with Raw right now, right? Like, I think OCB sued them for all the false advertisement and stuff, and they're still trying to fight a ban on the sale of their products in Illinois and I think a couple other places. So, you know, I think this hopefully will give them a new project to work on, and hopefully we can see High Times come back and be cool again.
I would love if High Times came back and was cool again. That would be,
cool again,
phenomenal,
right? That's the key.
Right? Yeah. Make High Times
Kennedy
cool again.
kept it cool for a long time, and then these idiots came it up.
Jason, you got to pay attention to the gossip and what's going on in the industry, bud. You missed a lot of stuff.
Well, stop it. I pay attention to all kinds of things, Jenny Beth.
Well, you would have caught my China joke.
It's just because
you're above all of us.
Yeah, just because you made a joke doesn't mean, you know what I mean.
A good one.
Yeah,
it's a great one.
Well, I'll go ahead, please.
Measured by the amount of laughs that are received.
Mm-hmm. Go. Were you saying something, Michael?
I was saying this is something that I'm really happy about. High Times was, as probably many of us, something I read in high school and college, gave me a lot of background information on this plant, non-mainstream information about hemp. One of the ads in High Times I loved and helped push me into what I did. It said, stoners go on to harder things, graduate school. So that was an inspiration for me. One of my favorite accomplishments and one of the things I wanted to do when I started my career was to be Freedom Fighter of the Month in High Times, and I was in October of 2018, I believe it was. So High Times to me, at least back then in print, was just such an incredible and really the only resource that we had to really get a lot and good education about multiple different, aspects of cannabis, the growing, the medical benefits, the hemp industrial benefits of it. It was really an awesome magazine and absolutely love it. And, I have a ton of them here. I went to go find one. I just couldn't grab one in my office. But I have a ton of old High Times magazines.
No, I
agree with you, Michael. It was a place to go to get information. And they really created, weed porn. It was like the Playboy magazine for cannabis. Right? It was anti-establishment, taboo to be reading High Times magazine. And then they, they made these buds big and beautiful, right, in the magazine, and everybody flocked to it. I hope they succeed.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I hope they're ultimately really successful. And I find it really interesting because the picture of this article, it'll be on our website. I guess I'm not sure if I emailed it to our guys to see if we could possibly share it. I'm not sure if they're able to get it up right now. But there's
a bill for that.
That's cute, Todd. The picture though. Has a picture of Josh with Matt Stang, and guess where they're standing at, Jenny Beth?
Where, Jason?
They're standing inside of the famous Hitman coffee shop. And one of the assets that was also in this receivership purchase is also the assets to Chalice. And so if they're bringing back the cups, I wonder if they are going to bring back Chalice or if they're going to give Chalice back to Dougie and let him bring Chalice back.
Did they? Okay, question. Did they? I actually want to look at what the purchase was because I know that it was part of that. So
that was the asset of High Times.
Yeah, I understand that was an asset of High Times, but were they all purchased together?
Yes.
Because once High Time went into receivership, everything was split apart, and it was all
the only so the only difference, the only thing that was split apart in relation was the licensed entities as being plant touching entities were not part of that sale. Everything else, as far as intellectual property, digital assets, events, stuff like that was all included in this sale.
So they bought all of it?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Because they were initially, every asset was split apart and parted out. So yeah. I'm just curious. which ones they bought. So that's cool.
Yes. No. So they got all of that. They definitely have chalice, and so I wonder. It's going to be really interesting to see. You know what I mean? Matt, I've known Matt for a number of years, and Matt always did a great job with the cups. Worked with him for a number of years, and so I wish him and Jackie all the best at this, and whatever we can do to help you guys out with this. You know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting to try to bring this thing back to its old glory days.
Yeah, Matt and Jackie are cool. I mean, I think the chalice purchase also comes with a lot of debt. You know what I mean? So like,
no, because it comes out of receivership. It's out of receivership. There's no debt, Jenny Beth.
Is it?
Yeah. And when you purchase something out of receivership, there's no more debt attached to it.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
So this could be very interesting to see what they do.
I wonder who would be a part of that. I don't know. There's so many things. Like, is Danny Danko coming back? Like, are y'all gonna what's actually gonna happen here? But it would be really cool to see them get the band back together if they're gonna bring
Inko, Kyle Cushman. Maybe Kyle will come back too.
That would be super interesting.
It would be interesting. It would be very cool. Good story, Jason.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Josh. I'm glad. Again, I'm really glad to see that High Times is going into the hands of some people that really care about cannabis, and so we're here for it. We support it, and whatever we can do to help push it, we will definitely be around for. And on that note, we are going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Michael Minardi. He's from the great red state of Florida, almost the same color as Todd. He's been helping plant advocates, patients, and caregivers defend themselves from unjust laws for the past 20 years in Florida. That's right. And you can find him at his law office at Minardi Law in Florida, you guys. It is Mr. Michael Minardi.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday and happy high noon on the East Coast. Welcome if you got them.
Yeah.
So first, you guys had great conversation yesterday regarding those equal protection stuff. And I'm just going to say, Jenny, I think you were correct in regard to the scheduling, that it is an equal protection argument fundamentally that becomes the crux of the issue, regardless of how you argue it. So you hit that nail on the head. Great job.
Thank you.
Hopefully, the judges can see the absurdity of it. And you guys mentioned something else regarding, not being able to change it over time. Technically, the scheduling is it's supposed to actually look at current medical studies when they're determining that. And I've argued in cases that it should be something that's looked at regularly and consistently over time, because exactly that. Drugs change, the side effects that we know change, and the benefits that we know change. So that's an ongoing fight, but hopefully the Supreme Court takes it up. So with that, today, I'm kind of doing two articles, but they're both about the same thing. Single-dose psilocybin therapy shows promise for reducing alcohol consumption. And that was in Addiction, Alcohol, and Psilocybin by Eric Dolan. And on the same day, a study came out, single psilocybin trip delivers 2 years of depression relief for cancer patients. And so in both studies, they use 0.25 milligrams in doing this research. And we're going to go to the alcohol study because I think that's an interesting one. I was intrigued by early pilot studies on alcohol use disorder and nicotine dependence, showing that just a few doses of psilocybin could have immediate and long-lasting effects, explains study author Matthias Ibsen Jensen, postdoctoral researcher at the Neuropsychiatric Laboratory of Psychiatry Center in Copenhagen. At the time, I did clinical research with GLP-1 receptor agonist for alcohol use disorder, which was a more traditional pharmacological approach. Psilocybin contrasted this in many ways by showing long-lasting benefits way beyond the drug's presence in the organism. I was also inspired by the work of William Miller, who is perhaps best known for developing motivational interviewing, a counseling style used in addiction, who had this concept of sudden change. And he called it, and I love this, quantum change. Quantum change contrasted with gradual change and was characterized by a sudden and spontaneous transformative experience that would change one's attitude and behavior in a benevolent and long-lasting way. The pulmonology of quantum change experiences bear a striking resemblance with psilocybin-induced experiences. And I thought, perhaps we can occasion quantum changes with psilocybin and thereby radically change their drinking behavior. The research designed an open-label, single-group trial involving 10 adults seeking treatment for alcohol disorder, 8 men and 2 women with a median age of 44. All had severe alcohol use disorder and confirmed by diagnostic criteria and self-reporting questionnaires. Many of the participants had never received treatment before, and only half had prior experience with psychedelics. The protocol included 5 sessions, 2 preparatory therapy meetings, the psilocybin session, 1 high-dose psilocybin session, which they considered, I believe, as 25 milligrams, and 2 integration sessions afterward. The therapy incorporated elements of motivational interviewing, acceptance and commitment therapy, and guided imagery. These approaches were chosen to help participants prepare for and reflect on the psychological effects of the psychedelic experience. On dosing day, they had a light meal. They ingested a capsule containing 25 milligrams of psilocybin and listened to a curated 6-hour music program while reclining in a comfortable room with 2 trained therapists present. The therapists supported but most likely kept interaction minimal unless they needed it for reassurance or guidance. Subjective drug intensity was assessed after every 20 minutes during the session, and after the effects wore off, they completed several questionnaires to assess the quality and emotional tone of the experience. Despite the variation, all participants reported intense psychedelic effects. Most achieved the highest possible subjective intensity score, and many described their experience using terms consistent with mystical type experiences. These included feelings of unity, transcendence of time and space, and a deep sense of meaning. On average, the peak effects occurred about 1.5 hours after ingestion and lasted approximately 6 hours. All 10 participants went through the full course, and no serious side effects were reported. Mild and short-lasting side effects such as anxiety, headache, and fatigue were common in the first day, but resolved without medical intervention. Blood pressure and heart rate increased slightly after dosing, but remained within safe ranges. The researchers measured changes in drinking behavior using a well-established method that tracks alcohol use over time. 12 weeks after the session, participants had reduced their number of heavy drinking days by an average of 37.5 percentage points. The number of drinks consumed per day also dropped significantly, with a median reduction of about 3.4 drinks. This was the first study to assess the safety and efficacy of just a single psilocybin dose for patients with alcohol use disorder. Jensen told SciPost it was also the first to study blood samples during the psychedelic session to see how the blood concentrations of the drug behaved over time and how that was important in relation to the effect. We found that a single dose of psilocybin with a few psychotherapy sessions before and after was safe and significantly reduced heavy drinking for at least 12 weeks. Now, interestingly enough, in the depression score study, and I'm just going to touch base on a couple with that, it was 28 patients, and the same thing, they gave a single 25 milligram dose of psilocybin. During clinical interviews conducted 2 years later in that one, 53.6% of patients demonstrated a significant reduction in depression. 50% had sustained depression reduction as well as remission. And similarly, it reduced anxiety for 12 patients for 2 years. So these 2 studies continue to expand on, I think, what we continue to learn and what we're seeing from our Health and Human Services Director of Secretary, and I think hopefully Surgeon General Casey Means, supporting psychedelic research, studies, and we continue to show the benefits of it without serious side effects. And this should be something that can go viral and get listed as something to use to this entire country immediately, as opposed to going through the medical marijuana system like we did, each state coming on year after year. Patients are being treated differently. Patients are continuing to have to suffer. I remember in Florida when we first started medical, after you got approved by your doctor, you had to wait 90 days. All those cancer patient treatments and stuff were dying and not even getting able to use it. These people deserve this medicine now. This is nature. This is God-given. This is all that is one given. And I'm just encouraged to see more studies like this. And with MAPS going on in Colorado this week, hopefully Colorado's system will also continue to increase more studies that are positive to show the benefits of nature. What are you guys thinking on this?
25 milligrams is not a lot.
I mean, this is all great news. It's all wonderful, great news. But what you just said was the early days, how you had to wait 90 days, right, to get some medical marijuana. That is just so crazy. Go to Walmart, buy a gun today, but wait 90 days for your medical marijuana, you poor sick patient.
Yep.
Well, yeah. In the early days of some places in Colorado, you could just go into the doctor. They would give you your little paper. And like most shops, if you came in with the paper, which was what you had to have before your card came in the mail, you got a fucking fat discount. So they're like, thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, the early days of the California market. I mean, you could fly in, get your state ID, get your medical card, and be at the dispensary in the same day, from what I've heard. And then you got the goodie bags, you know, when you first purchased at a store.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, I wouldn't know.
It's accurate. It's accurate. It happened here in Colorado. It was
They would walk around. Jenny.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they'd walk around on Venice Beach, you know, and say medical marijuana card, medical marijuana card, medical marijuana card. And I was like, yeah, I don't live here. The dude goes, you do today.
Yeah. You do today, exactly. That is true. Like, you are in California, you are technically a California resident while you're here. You're, you know.
I think it's great. Any advances on psilocybin therapy, I think, is huge. I believe it's going to be a bigger industry, the cannabis industry, because of the psychological effects it has on folks to really take away a lot of the madness that they're suffering from addiction to anxiety to whatever. Jason, I know you know Jackie McGowan. I know you're not a big fan, but I interviewed Jackie a couple of years ago, and she had quit smoking, and she was a 35-year, cigarette smoker, and quit smoking, and she started to go a little batty. It was driving her crazy, and he did this psilocybin. Hold on,
you're saying quitting smoking drove her crazy? Because I thought she was already little.
No, cuckoo. She was crazy. No, she was
okay.
Totally
all right, just want to make sure we're on the speaking on the same person.
Yeah. No, but I mean, just internally, she couldn't live. Became suicidal. She became depressed all the time. And she started psilocybin therapy in Florida, actually with a shaman there.
Well, good for her.
Goes on and on and on to say how it literally saved her life, and it was her new mission to help spread the word. But it is a well-known, well-documented, substance that has been around for millions and millions of years, and it's great that people are finally coming around and using this plant medicine that so many people need.
Well, good. I hope it fixed her racist tendencies too.
Oh boy.
I'd love to hear it help anybody. Well, listen, I had a personal encounter, so that's not conjecture. That's me stating lived experience. But no, I think that psilocybin has been very helpful for a lot of people. It helped me going through PTSD after years and years of domestic violence. It's helped a lot of friends that I know, a lot of veterans that I've worked with. So I think that any advances that we have, anything that's making this more acceptable as medicine, I'm glad that we have RFK on board with kind of these treatments. And I think
he's great. He's the best guy.
Well, listen, hey,
stop being such a hater, Todd.
We'll take the support we can get, right?
Yeah,
if Obama would have come out and been like, hey, plant medicine's fucking helping people, I'd have been like, I don't like you, but I agree with you. I'm with you and you're right.
Yeah.
So I think we have to take the support we can get and push to normalize these treatments so that we can gain access for people whose lives will be changed by them.
I believe he is all political theater, though. I don't think they're going to do anything.
Whatever. Well, time will tell. Time will tell, Todd. We already know you're a naysayer.
And I got to say, this administration isn't one that's not going to do anything. So
yeah, exactly. We do a lot.
What I was going to say, this also relates, I think you mentioned an article yesterday related to the fentanyl bill, also expanding the right for research of Schedule I substances. So this would fall, and psilocybin should fall within that. in addition to obviously the FDA breakthrough therapy that it got, and it's still going through phase 3 trials for some stuff. But, you know, it's just sad that our government keeps nature away from us still, and prevents people from using these medicines that are absolutely miraculous for so many people. As someone with our nonprofit, we do health and wellness retreats for veterans as well, and first responders, and just to see the impact of, you know, the different substances and different modalities of health and wellness besides pills, and how it helps people is just amazing. And it's great to see our country hopefully getting and pushing towards that avenue.
Now, I have a question, Michael, because there's some comments that were going on in the chat, and someone was trying to tell me that that 25 milligrams of psilocybin is like the equivalent of like 2 grams of mushrooms. And so, do we know, was this like an extract that they were given, or do we know like if it was actually like mushrooms that were given them in a capsule that was ground up, or anything else like that? Because to me, 0.25 milligrams is definitely not two grams of mushrooms. I'm not buying that math.
It's 2.5 chocolate squares.
Yeah, exactly, Todd. I'm not buying any of that BS. Because I know when I've taken mushrooms, like if I want to, you know what I'm saying, have a good time, or at least an enjoyable experience, I need a minimum of an eighth. Or, you know what I'm saying, a 4 grammer, you know what I'm saying. And then they you know, all the big therapists with mushrooms, they say that like the breakthrough dose is like 8 grams is when you know what I'm saying, really like get through.
There's a difference, Jason. There's a therapeutic use in microdosing that gives you just a little bit of a head change that over time will, you know, assist you. And then there's the whole shock and awe approach where you're like, I need to get through this shit today. So, I mean, I've done both, Jason. I can tell you they both work, and they're different ways. Like my anxiety, when I have to go to, you know how much I love you guys. I love all of you. But cannabis events are no longer fun for me. I've done them since Jesus came back the last time. And they're not that fun for me. There's a lot of, hey, how are you? Talking to people that I maybe don't want to talk to, or talking to way too many people in a day. And I'm just maxed out on my, you know, America's sweetheartedness. So a microdose is very helpful for me and my anxiety and my frustrations there. Now, where I was dealing with some very serious trauma, and actually, you know, in the early, you know, moments of my diagnosis with PTSD, where I would go and I would hike out into the woods in Colorado, and I would do quite a bit, right? And that was a whole different experience. That's me sitting there. That's me journaling, if I can still write. That's me, you know, actually having a breakthrough. So there's therapeutic uses in different quantities.
Yeah, I would honestly, when I saw it, and it says capsule, so it sounds like it's more something like ground up, but to me, 0.25 is a microdose. As far as that goes,
it's a big microdose.
I understand what some of the extracts people say that it's more, but you know, I think that also really depends on the person and their prior use of psychedelics as well. Because, you know, just like cannabis, we may think 5 milligram gummy is nothing, but we've given it to people and they're, you know, totally wasted because they've never used cannabis before. So I think really the dosing depends on the person and their experience with psychedelics. And sometimes the setting as well, when you're in a therapeutic setting like that and you're on a microdose and, you know, you have a face mask on and you're kind of just sitting there listening to music, and you know, you do tend to go inside a little bit more, I think, than, you know, maybe if you're out at an event or something of that nature, because there's more stimuli there as opposed to, you know, taking it all internally. But, you know, it's amazing to me that dosage that they're using in both studies is having significant effects on people. And I agree with Jenny Beth, you know, sometimes, you know, a 10, 15 gram dosage really can put people into next week like an ayahuasca dose almost.
Oh yeah.
Well,
time trip.
Well. And on that, we are gonna, you know, we're gonna keep this thing. I have a few other questions for you guys, but I know we're behind time, and you know what I'm saying, we got to get to Todd, and so on that, we're gonna roll into our next commercial, and we're gonna be right back. There.
Are we? Is we ain't, Jason Beck.
Yes. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And, of course, make sure that you go into the description of this video. You can find all the links to all the articles, you know what I'm saying, as well as all of the sponsors down below that help make this show possible. And make sure you use the link to order yourself a case of Liberal Tears. 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can, 0 grams of sugar, and no snowflakes were harmed in the making of this product.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Bald Man of the Year. He's going up for Mr. High Times, the Bald Man edition. Todd Denkin.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll take it. Bald Man of the Year. It is quite an honor you've just bestowed upon me. Are there any responsibilities I need to be aware of?
Just don't grow any hair. I think you got it.
I got it. I got that for sure. Well, my story, Jenny Beth, coincides with what you were talking about, although I'm in Missouri as Missouri cannabis stakeholders prepare the 2026 ballot initiative to create a unified marijuana and hemp regulation package. Ethan Thampe, nice name, a lobbyist for American Shaman.
Ethan Sampin.
What's that?
Ethan Sampin. I know Ethan.
Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan Thampe, it says. Ethan Thampe. You don't pronounce it like that.
Ethan.
Anyway,
yeah,
he's a lobbyist for American Shaman, and he told Marijuana Moment on Monday. He said, "Quote: In our American tradition, the purpose of a constitution is to define and restrain the power of governments, not the private sector or the individual. It's the job of the statutory law to handle regulation of private sector. I think this solves a lot of issues for a lot of people," he added. Marijuana guys have this insane regulatory burden created by regulations that they can't change, despite the millions of dollars they spent supporting campaigns for office in the last election cycle. The text of the proposal is currently being drafted by an unnamed law firm, Thampe said during a virtual briefing. Stakeholders and advocates on Monday. The plan is to get the measure filed by August to make the November 2026 ballot. The effort is being organized under a new political committee called Missourians for Single Market, which was formed this month. In theory, the initiative would create a more leveled playing field for the marijuana and hemp industries, which currently abide by a discordant set of regulations. Stakeholders want to see is both industries treated more equitably, with policies that more closely resemble how the state deals with alcohol and tobacco markets. You've got this artificial legal construct called marijuana and this artificial legal construct called hemp. These two legal creations represent one plant. He added, and so the idea here is one plant. There should be one unified market. There should be one unified set of regulations. We have an opportunity in Missouri to pioneer a first-in-the-nation approach, he added. Steve DeAngelo, a well-known marijuana advocate and entrepreneur who has been involved in multiple successful legalization campaigns in the past and founded the Harborside Dispensary in Oakland, California, also joined Monday's video conference and voiced his support for the proposal. He described the 3 pillars of the industry that he feels be unified under a single regulatory model: marijuana, hemp, and legacy operators that were in the space before legalization. He said, when you bring down the barriers to entry, all the legacy folks who are right now out of the legal system would be able to come in. So you create one single unified market for cannabis across all sectors. That's the proposal that I have to advance now. Proposed initiative isn't universally supported across the state's cannabis industry, however. Andrew Mullins, executive director of MoCan Trade, told Marijuana Moment that Missouri's licensed regulated marijuana industry generated $241 million in state and local tax revenues last year, and is roundly regarded as one of the most impactful in the entire country. He said that the plan would effectively, quote, repeal Missouri's twice voter-approved cannabis legalization laws, referring to the passage of medical and adult use reform measures. Doing so would be a spectacular failure, especially since it's funded by bad actors who are currently selling unregulated cannabis overseas to Missouri's children in gas stations and smoke shops. Mullins argued, Missourians aren't about to take hundreds of millions away from local communities, veterans, and our justice system, all in hopes politicians will eventually replace it with something down the road. Voters of the Show Me State are far too smart for that bait and switch. Meanwhile, Missouri's hemp market has been facing increased pressure from the state as officials attempt to crack down on businesses selling intoxicated cannabis products such as THCA outside of the marijuana program. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, a Republican, sent over a dozen cease and desist orders to such businesses this month, threatening potential legal action for non-compliant businesses. Lawmakers are contemplating multiple approaches with different details on what kinds of products would be allowed and what limits would be set on THC levels in the products. In February, legislation allowing low-dose intoxicating hemp beverages to continue to be sold in grocery and liquor stores was reported favorably by committees, both the House and the Senate, but was not enacted into law. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News, and look at Missouri trying to do something marry the two industries together. I agree wholeheartedly. It should be one set of regulations for both cannabis and hemp. Like Jenny would say, it's the same plant, y'all.
Absolutely not how Jenny would say it, but thank you so much. I would like to strip you of your title. I'm giving it to Mr. Minardi.
Wait a second.
Easy there, right? Shots fired.
The problem can win bald guy with glasses man of the year. How about that?
Hold on.
They're great fucking glasses.
Oh, there we go.
So what's the problem here?
The problem is it's, hemp is federally legal. So they're like, unfortunately, until it comes federally like that, they're two totally different substances. Mm-hmm. And they have to be treated differently. And, I'm sick of all these state
I think
laws.
that's the whole...
Well, right. But that's a federal issue that they shouldn't be, not on the state level. They are currently 100%. I mean, we are all to the support that this plant should be descheduled and treated like alcohol and tobacco. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
this is ridiculous. It's a human rights violation, and people are still in jail for this plant. I mean, can we even? So, I understand their logic, but I think yes, it should be done. But I think it should be done federally and done, in a way that allows all businesses to be on an equal footing. Because I think doing it in the state when hemp is legal, you can't stop people from mail ordering hemp products.
Yep.
I don't see legally how they can do that. So it just continues to create problems.
They have to shut down the post office.
What if they create
have to shut down the post office?
That, other states copy, or that the federal government copies. I think even them workshopping it is a good idea.
Look, this is the thing, Todd. All right, we all agree that we all want it to be treated the same, but the reality of it is this: it doesn't make any sense to over-regulate the hemp market just for the sake of the cannabis market. That makes absolutely zero sense. That's the most dumbest idea ever.
But what it does, though, it controls the THCAs and the Delta 8s and the intoxicating hemp products
Todd,
people are making, and that's the problem.
No, Todd.
Nobody cares about the non-intoxicating hemp stuff.
No, Todd. What it needs to happen is that if there's going to be parity, then the regulated market needs to be like the hemp market, okay? And just have just age gating and labeling requirements. And that's it. End of story. Testing requirements, and that's it. End of story. Period. Point blank. That's what needs to happen. Okay. But all of this propaganda propagating, saying, oh, the hemps needs to be regulated in the same way that cannabis is just overtaxation, overregulation only stimulates the illicit market. Doesn't help anybody.
Oh. Well, hopefully you take a little bit from the hemp and a little bit from the cannabis and you put it together for one program.
No, because the whole cannabis
you take
program
the best of this one and the best of this one, and you make one.
There is no best part of the cannabis program, bro. That's the part of it. There is no best part of it. It's all trash in every freaking state, even Missouri. Yeah. And Missouri's eating everybody's lunch out of all 50 of them.
I actually disagree with you, Jason. I don't think that Missouri's eating anybody's lunch.
There they are.
No, Jason,
You're just
we've
wrong.
done story after story after story of what Missouri has gotten wrong. In theory, Missouri had great ideas. In practice, it's fallen flat.
I don't know about all that, Jenny Beth. I think you're totally wrong with that, but it's okay. You can be wrong.
So,
yeah, I'm not gonna.
Todd, I agree with you on that. But until they, either then recriminalize hemp and so make all those products not legal, or like they're trying to do potentially in the Farm Bill, redefine the definition of hemp. I think that it needs to be done federally. The FDA and our government should get on top of it. This is a human rights violation that is destroying people's lives. And it's an agricultural commodity and crop for our farmers throughout this country who are struggling in both sides, cannabis and hemp, intoxicating and non-intoxicating. But I do agree, and I like the dialect. At least people are talking about it and discussing it. And I think it's something that should be merged on our level as well in the state, because most of the people that are selling hemp are doing it because they can't sell cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade. And in a GMP certified facility, so you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, and we are back, you guys. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Bringing it up like he never left because he's got more to say. The fried chicken eating Jason Beck.
Oh, yes. Love me some fried chicken. Thank you so much for that over the weekend, Jenny Beth. Nick is just having a conniption fit today. Just I'm saying, just gotta love it. We love you, Nick. We love you, bro. We love you, Nick. There's Nick again right there. Well, let me tell you something. The California Public Health Department aims to make hemp THC ban permanent. Look at this. What a timely story coming off of the last one. The department's proposal to immortalize Governor Gavin Newsom's emergency regulations represents a $3.1 billion loss in revenue for California businesses. And yet they want to say how broke they are all the time. The California Department of Public Health, the CDPH, issued a proposal on June 13th to permanently ban hemp-derived intoxicating cannabinoid products, including those with trace amounts of THC. The CDPH estimates that the proposal would cause 115 businesses to close and 18,478 jobs to be lost in 5 years after implementation, with $3.14 billion with a B in lost revenue. In a quote, impacts on revenue affect the ability of businesses to remain financially stable and economically viable, and to have sufficient monthly cash flow to cover overhead operational costs, according to the CDFTA's 22-page notice of proposed rulemaking. In an additional quote, these impacts disproportionately affect small businesses. Under the CDPH's current regulations, which Governor Gavin Newsom issued emergency rules for in September of 2024, industrial hemp food beverages and dietary supplements intended for human consumption must have no detectable THC or any comparable cannabinoid per serving, have a minimum purchase age of 21, and have no more than 5 servings per package. These emergency rules collide with the 2018 Farm Bill's federal definition of hemp, which can contain up to 0.3 Delta-9 THC on a dry weight basis during a pre-harvest field test. However, the federal legislation allows states to enact more stringent regulations surrounding their hemp programs. While emergency regulations are set to expire on September 23rd, mark your calendars of 2025, the CDPH's latest proposal to permanently ban intoxicating hemp products with detectable amounts of THC is now under a 45-day rulemaking period, after which the department will consider all public comments, objections, and recommendations, and the CDPH scheduled a public hearing at 10 a.m. on July 28th, so mark your calendars for that as well. Despite the adverse economic impacts, the department's proposed regulations would protect public health and safety by protecting consumers, especially youth under 21 years of age, and reducing risk of illness, injury, or death. Because we're just going to say you can't buy it, because that's the most dumbest, ridiculous shit I've ever heard. But according to the CDPH's June 13th notice, the sentiment mimics comments Newsom made in September when he said his administration was taking action to close loopholes and increase enforcement to prevent children from accessing dangerous, unregulated products. Governor Newsom, he sounds a lot like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick to me in a lot of these quotes, you guys, but nonetheless, in an additional quote from Governor Newsom, he says, "We will not sit on our hands as drug peddlers target our children with dangerous and unregulated hemp products containing THC at our retail stores," the governor said. While children under 21 with certain health conditions would still have access to California's medical cannabis program, they would no longer have access to hemp CBD. They don't have access now, you guys. Why are you saying this? This makes no sense. The CDPH projects that only a small number of non-intoxicating CBD products would likely remain outside of licensed cannabis market under the department's proposal, and to comply with the proposed regulations and current emergency regulations, hemp product manufacturers would need to use a purified CBD isolate that eliminates its traces of total THC, they say. In a quote, "CBD isolate and other cannabinoid isolates that contain no detectable total THC are costly," according to the CDPH's notice. In an additional quote, "It is estimated that there were not any pre-existing hemp products in the California market prior to the emergency regulations that would have reliably complied with the no detectable total THC standard. Many products previously available that were marketed as CBD had very low levels of total THC, but still would have been non-compliant with the proposed regulations due to trace amounts of total THC that would still need to be detectable at some level." The department projects roughly 100 of the state's 115 licensed hemp manufacturers would be eliminated from the marketplace. Of the 15 CDPH licensed manufacturers remaining in the market, approximately 10 would be expected to incur relabeling costs at an average cost of $20,000 per business. In total, about 50 businesses would incur those relabeling costs. And before the emergency regulations took effect in September, intoxicating hemp products were sold at vape shops, gas stations, convenience stores statewide with no rules in place for age gating or marketing to youth shoppers. I mean, most head shops, you have to be 18 or over to even walk in the first place because they're tobacco stores. So why they're even saying this is totally ridiculous. I understand with gas stations, but not with head shops. And according to the CDPH, some hemp manufacturers market products to children with graphics and labeling that mimicked pop brands of popular candies and snacks. And less than 8 months after the emergency rules were in place, Newsom announced that in May that 99.7% of state licensed alcohol establishments were in compliance. However, the governor's administration did not report compliance rates for unlicensed retail businesses, and the projected enforcement compliance costs under the CFPH proposal is $785,000 per year. The CDPH considered alternatives that would lessen adverse economic impact on businesses and invited the public to submit proposals by email at regulations@cdph.ca.gov, or you could fax it to them, or you could mail it to them, or any of that, and they provide all their stuff, and that'll be available on our website.
Roll back to 1988 and just send me a fax.
Right? Exactly.
A facsimile, if you will.
Mm-hmm. The CDPH estimates that the most impacted business types under the proposal would be carryout retailers, which would experience a $2.02 billion revenue decrease in the first 5 years, while manufacturers $615 million, and food service retailers $268 million, and wholesale retailers $227 million would also be impacted. The department also anticipates that many of California's roughly 70,000 residents who regularly consume hemp products will likely substitute their in-state purchases with mail orders from out of state, and this will impact California businesses' ability to compete with other states. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen. People are just going to order it offline, have it shipped to their door. That's exactly right. And California's going to get no revenue. And in a quote, all of the businesses affected will experience a decrease in competitiveness, and manufacturing and possessing of hemp products will move out of state, according to the CDPH's notice. Out of state businesses and the illegal market will supply the California THC hemp market. Well, they're right about that part. Under the rulemaking process, the department must determine that no reasonable alternative that it considered or was brought to its attention would be more effectively carried out. The purpose of the proposal to protect the public health and safety, you guys. Wow. Man, this is such a joke. I can't believe that they're actually trying to do this. California, you guys are just going to screw everything up even more than you've already screwed this state up by trying to do this. And you know, it's so funny because I feel as though, Jenny Beth, that we should make this mention into Texas, and Texas should be like, hey, Texas, why are you trying to do the same thing that they're trying to do in California? You're basically being like California by trying to ban these products. And I think that could possibly push Governor Abbott over the edge to sign for a veto just because of this ridiculousness. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, Jason, I'd like to point out to you, if a business does business in other states, they also have to pay taxes in those states. That's why it gets so messy doing interstate commerce. But, yeah, I agree. I think that California is once again being idiotic and short-sighted. But, hey, it's good for parody gummy, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, are they trying to help out the cannabis market a little bit by doing this? This
is not helping the cannabis market, though, Michael. No one that shops on the hemp market is going to go and start buying at a cannabis store because all of a sudden they're just going to go online and order some other product somewhere else, or they're going to go to the trap market because the reason they don't go to the regulated market is because the taxes and costs are too high.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is it like an attempt to do something? I don't know, but it seems like pure ridiculousness as the continued regulations in California seem to go against the cannabis industry rather than trying to help it. Yeah, it's got to stop. I don't understand that at all.
Exactly. What do you got to say? Is that all you got to say, Jenny?
I mean, we know where Governor Newsom's intentions lie and where he's receiving funds from and who he's receiving funds from and where his straw investments lie. So, you know.
Straw hat. Lots of straws going on, you guys.
So, man, corruption, nothing Newsom, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh.
Man.
Not gruesome if you're buying Newsom.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute, Jenny Beth.
You like that one?
I like that.
Off the cuff for you morning. Yeah.
Very nice.
Everybody's got to get behind the federal reform. There's got to be some nationwide uprising regarding it. Moving it to scheduling.
I really think this could be a help for everyone in Texas to get Governor Abbott though over the hump of vetoing SB3. It's like, hey, Texas, don't be like California. Pretty simple. It's you know what I mean? They're trying to do this in California. They're screwing everything up. You know what I mean?
First, the farthest thing Republican governors want to get away from, right?
Exactly.
In California.
Yep, exactly. All of a sudden, they're going to make Texas like California by banning things. I think that's probably the best talking point right there. But nonetheless,
and especially when the Republicans are pushing for freedom in every state, right?
Exactly. You can't say you're about freedom when you're trying to ban things that the general public wants, and you have no way to actually stop them from procuring.
Yep.
And they're aware of it.
Back to my light bulb example too, though, Jason. I had in my place in West Hollywood, the light bulbs in my kitchen and my recessed lighting were no longer allowed by California law, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll go on Amazon and buy them. And Amazon's like, not available in your state.
You just got to go probably direct to the bulb manufacturer, Jenny Beth, and they'll probably will sell them to you.
Maybe. There's also, for you guys that don't know, on 3rd Street in Beverly Hills, West Hollywood area, a light bulb shop that sells.
Oh yeah, light bulbs and more. They're fantastic. I love that place. They're amazing. They have other. They're a chain. They have outlets throughout the state.
Yeah, they got a lot of shit going on in there.
Yeah, light bulbs and more. They got lots of lights. They're very bright. Very bright. Right,
All
guys.
right. Well, do you have another story?
I do.
for us,
I have a final story for you. And you know, Jenny, I tried to make it a happy story. You know, I've been trying to find happy stories to end the show on.
In the words of Yoda, there's no do or do not. There is no try.
Well, a DC hemp company, Michael, you're going to love this. They sue the feds over an unworkable marijuana budget rule. That's right. Capitol Hemp, a Washington, D.C. based business, is hauling the federal government to court, claiming a sneaky budget rider is choking its operations. Filed in late June 2025, the lawsuit targets a rule in the federal spending bill that bans selling of hemp products with any detectable THC in D.C., clashing with the 2018 Farm Bill's 0.3% THC limit. With the $8 billion hemp industry on the line, this fiery fight could reshape D.C.'s cannabis landscape. And here's the drama. All for you guys, because the rider, renewed yearly since 2015, sets a zero tolerance THC standard in DC, outlawing hemp with even trace amounts despite federal legalization. The federal government's attempt to impose a zero tolerance THC standard in DC directly contradicts the 2018 Farm Bill, and Capitol Hemp's lawsuit states this puts retailers like Capitol Hemp in a bind. And to shutter their stores or face prosecution, as most hemp products have 0.01 to 0.3% THC. The rider, linked to a clause blocking D.C. from legalizing cannabis sales, has obliterated the local hemp market, costing businesses millions, the suit claims. And Shane Pennington, Capitol Hemp's attorney, put it bluntly, I like how they said that, in a quote, "Congress cannot use its spending power to override federal law and destroy an entire industry in the nation's capital. The company seeks an injunction to stop the Justice Department, D.C.'s government, from enforcing the rider, arguing it violates the Commerce Clause and Congress's authority over D.C. The contradiction is stark because hemp with 0.3% THC is legal nationwide, but D.C. sellers risk felony charges. The fight hits hard in D.C., where the hemp industry supports 200 jobs and $15 million in annual revenue, and the D.C. Chamber of Commerce in 2024. That's where those numbers came from. But nationally, hemp sales reached $8 billion with a B dollars in 2024 from Whitney Economics, and 74% of Americans live in states with legal cannabis, from a Pew Research poll in 2024. Yet the rider, championed by Representative Andy Harris, Republican from Maryland, keeps D.C. in a prohibitionist chokehold, despite 70% of Americans supporting legalization. This rider is a backdoor attack on hemp and cannabis reform, said Morgan Fox of Normal, capturing industry fury. The lawsuit's timing is strategic, with cannabis rescheduling talks gaining steam. I don't know if they're gaining steam. I'm not buying that. And Meta recently lifting marijuana search blocks. Hemp advocates smell opportunity, but Harris isn't backing down, defending the rider on June 20th of 2025 in a quote says, "DC shouldn't be a testing ground for drugs." Capitol's hemp case could break the rider's grip or expose federal overreach as it heads to court, and this David versus Goliath battle is fueling the buzz in the cannabis world, with stakes high for DC's hemp future and beyond, you guys. Well, Michael Minardi, what do you have to say about this? They're taking the federal government to court saying, hey, you guys are in violation. You guys are trying to ban federally legal substances from being sold in DC.
You know, I think it's a great lawsuit, and it really, to me, hinges on one phrase in the Farm Bill as to whether or not, states can get away with this, and courts throughout the country have interpreted it differently. Hopefully we can get the Supreme Court, honestly, I think at some point has to rule on this issue, because it is being interpreted differently in federal circuit after federal circuit. Mm-hmm. And that's specifically, the issue of whether or not local jurisdictions can have stricter laws than the federal laws related to hemp. Mm-hmm. I personally believe it only relates to the cultivation of hemp and licensing people to cultivate hemp. But courts throughout the country have expanded it to all aspects of the hemp industry. And that's how we're getting these states, banning all these products, because they're saying, well, we can have more stricter rules than the federal government's definition of hemp. Mm-hmm. And that's really the issue. And that's going to be the buzz in this case, too.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, Michael, is DC is not a state.
Yep.
And so therefore they can't claim states' rights. So technically they have to abide by the federal rules. And so therefore any enforcement that they do on hemp is a breach of law as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the USDA would be the one that would be regulating that in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess it would depend on whether or not, because they do have local jurisdiction over authorizing things in that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would still be that local jurisdiction. But the argument is that they're conflicting with federal law ultimately either way.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that they don't have really have local jurisdiction in that sense. They have medical cannabis because that was passed by a voter initiative, right? But they don't have adult use there because of the fact that this Harris rider. Okay. However, they did say that you can self-proclaim yourself as a patient, so then they loosened up their medical rules, so then that way anyone that can self-proclaim as themselves as being a patient, right? And so therefore they have kind of a default adult use program, you know what I mean? Even though it's a little wonky, but that's kind of the workaround.
Yeah, what they have done out there with that market and the feds being involved in it is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They've continued to obviously hold it back for years after years and years, preventing the voters' will. It's just they really should get out of the business of regulating DC.
Mm-hmm. Look at this. Oh my God. It must be, hell must be freezing over, Jenny Beth, because Nick just said in the chat, he said that's a great argument for this specific case, Jason. Look at that. Look at that. There is a God.
Yeah, I know that.
What do you got? Any final thoughts on this, Jenny Beth?
Not at all.
Any final thoughts from you, Mr. Minardi?
No, keep fighting, man. Got to file these lawsuits and get some good law made.
That's
all
right.
we can do.
That's right. Keep fight. You know what I mean? And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution and Tested and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners, Elias and Kai. Did I get that right?
Elias,
son of a bitch. Elias and Kai, thank you all so much for helping us with all this. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.